Welcome to the Embodied Revolution show with your host, Lora Coleman, founder of Embodied Revolution. This is a safe space to connect, grow, and rise into your highest embodiment with authentic identity. Twice a month, we dive deep into inspiring conversations, grounded strategies, and real-life stories from women making bold moves aligned with their soul's purpose. So get ready for wisdom you can live, mindsets that transform, and the evidence that you too can rise stronger, wiser, and more in tune with your purpose. This is more than a show, it's a movement. Welcome to the Embodied Revolution. Hey everyone, welcome back to Embodied Revolution show. I'm Lora Coleman and I'm on a mission to share other women's stories so that we can break out the paradigms that hold us back. And today I'm so excited to have Anne Peshka. She is a speaker, an author, and an all-around advocate. Hey Anne, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Laura, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talking to you because when I went to your site and I watched your video, I was like, yes, this is what I stand for. This is what I stand for. And I know you have a long journey and you have a book out. What is the title of the book?
Trauma Recycled.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about why is that the title? What is going on with that? Because I know whenever I first saw it, I was thinking like, trauma recycled, like, how could this be? Like, and then once I read about it, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, right. I know the concept is kind of shocking to most. And if somebody had brought that to my attention when I was in my 20s, I would have thought they were just stark raving mad. But it's a memoir about my life and my journey. And basically what I realized I had been doing was taking all the trauma that I experienced as a young child and as a young adult, and of course the trauma I put myself through, and I was turning it into my magic. And it was becoming my superpower without really understanding that it was a superpower. And then I just realized, you know what, that's the art of recycling, right? Taking something that no longer serves us and turning it into something that does.
Yeah, something useful. That's how I see it as well. And I haven't had time to read the book, but I did listen to the audio of, I believe it's the first chapter of whenever it just introduces your story with adoption. And I was like, I have to go buy this book right now. I was like, I'm about to pull up Amazon because it does such a good job just in that very first part of explaining it in a loving way. So for those who are listening, you know, Anne did go through a journey of putting up a child for adoption. Is that how you worded putting the child up for adoption? Okay.
Yeah.
But it does it in such a good way of like, I felt the love, I felt connected to it. Yeah. And it really does a good job of seeing things differently. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show was because you and I are both what I consider cycle breakers. And I felt like you would be a great person to talk about that with, because even as I was listening to the first part of that book, you know, you talk a little bit about being in a homeless shelter as a mother. And whenever I was a kid, I was in a homeless shelter with my mom. So it was like a different way for me to look at it even now. And I'm 37 years old.
Wow.
That where I never thought of it like as a kid. And then you go into your teen, into your younger adult years where you're kind of thinking, you know, you get into a stage for me thinking of like, you know, my mom was this, my mom didn't care, my dad didn't care. But reading your story, it was like really eye-opening to be like the mom in the situation, the parent, because you were still explaining, I was, you know, worried about my child's safety. I wanted to have my child right there with me. Yeah. And so it really helps people see things in a new light, which is very, very needed. So just highlighting your thoughts as the other person, can you shed some light on that? Of like, is that part of the mission is to like help people see the different perspectives that there can be? Because that's what I got out of it.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I really am so glad because yes, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to share my story. I mean, I remember feeling so desperately alone and so filled with shame that I really felt like I didn't deserve to not only be a mom, but to live a healthy, happy life. Like that was for special people. those special cars and houses and relationships weren't for people like me. So for many, many years, I carried that. Really, it's just a horrifying state of despair that you can't, unless you've been there, you can't really articulate it. It's just so desperate. Like breathing is desperation. So when I decided to share my story, I did it because I wanted others to feel like, wow, you know what? Maybe I am okay. Maybe I do belong. Maybe, like, God, her life was so crappy, like, and she's did something, I wanted to give people hope, but I also wanted to stand in the form of judgment, because by me standing up when I was pregnant and I was saying out loud, I am not able to be a mom to this baby, and I'm going to place him into the hands of someone that can, that was a form of badassery I didn't realize I knew I had. Because that's hard, exactly. Right? Because people instantly judge you. What kind of mother gives her child away?
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it also highlights following your intuition and following what you know is right for you. Like not everyone's story is going to look the same. In some situations, you just don't know. And I've known people personally, not to say their names right now, that, the child lived with their dad or the child lived with someone else. And same thing where society would be like, well, what kind of person are you? It's like, well, because the dad or the other person, the dad had the job, the dad had the car, the dad was a caring dad, so on and so on. So like everyone's story is different, and we need women to come out and say like, hey, I did this, I did that, I felt this way, because that is what's going to help other women connect to that story and be like, okay, maybe I can get out of this situation, or maybe I can learn from it. And it's not always about getting out of something or fixing something, but rearranging that story to see like, how can we use it for the good?
Yeah, right. I mean, you miss an opportunity, right? When you jump into judgment of another, you miss an opportunity. And the opportunity really is to just kind of sit in grace and go, wow, I may not understand why she did something in my world, which would appear to be so off base, but let me not sit in judgment on that. Do you know what I mean? And the opportunity would be to see the beauty in it. You know what I mean? I mean, fast forward, it was only a couple of months ago that I was able to see that child that I placed in the arms of another get married.
Oh, okay. So you did see.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest of the story. So like you actually did get to see. I know, I have to, because like I was so in my feelings just from the first part. I was just like, oh my God, like I want to see it in words. Like that's how good it is. Like, I want to see it in words and like actually break it down.
Yeah. And I'm just glad that you recognize that, because I think that, there's multi-purposes to the book. One is inclusion and connection are so vastly important to me, because I do remember that feeling of not belonging and not feeling like I was good enough. And I really wanted to open myself up, because when you're able to share the good, bad, and the ugly, it gives someone else permission to feel the same.
Right.
And that's really important to me.
Yeah. And let's talk about that a little, like in the mindset world and even in my own brand, I follow the teachings of like changing your paradigm, you can change your life, but it's a lot easier for us right now in this time and space where everything is now for me, like a good spot. But what do you accredit your resilience to? Like in the book, you are very transparent, where there were times that you were just like, I'm garbage. This is not going to work out, but you kept going and you overcame. Yes. Which is the overall message, that you overcame. But whenever there's not that voice, that we always read in self-help books, like, if you know you can do it, you will succeed. But what about those times that like, we don't know if we can do it? Like for the person who's like, it's not going to work. Like, what is some advice that you can give? Like, how can people get over those hurdles in a realistic way? If you could like break it into some steps, like in a way that is really actually going to help someone in that stage of, I'm not worth it. Like, it's not going to work out for me. That's for other people. Is there anything that you found really is the first step to getting out of that pattern?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, for me personally, it was a matter of mind shifting, and it was a matter of actually literally taking my mind and reprogramming it. And it was the one of the hardest things I have ever done in all the modalities of therapy that I've ever done. Um, Reframing my talk to myself, my self-talk was excruciatingly painful. And this is, we're going to go back some decades here. This
Mhm.
is, I had a hand recorder and a therapist advised me to do this. And I had
Mhm.
to say affirmations over and over in the recorder. That was hard enough. Playing it back and listening to it was ripping your
Ugh.
heart out tough. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
that is hard because we're programmed that if you shine your light on yourself and you say things like, I am amazing, I am a really good friend, I am a really good mom. When you say things, people look at you like, who do you think
Who do
you
you
are?
think you are?
But you know
Yeah.
what? Quite honestly, if we aren't those things, what are we? And why
Right.
should we feel shame saying those things, believing those things, and behaving those things, right? So that was the very beginning for me, was learning how to reframe my self-talk. And now
Right.
there's some fantastic books. John Acuff's book, Soundtracks, couldn't say enough.
Okay.
That is one book that everybody on the planet should read at least once. It
Right.
really encompasses exactly what I just talked about. The next part was that I needed to get rid of the old, not only my own thoughts, but the people around me that filled my head with negativity. I needed to
Mhm.
press the delete button. And that was before there was a delete button. And then I began to see the magic, and that was hard. And when I say see the magic, it means like, the woman at work that said, wow, you did a good job today, Anne. I had to like stop and hear it.
Yes, and be like, "Oh, I did," like, make it into your reality.
Yes, that was hard. And you will begin to see all these beautiful little gifts of angels come across your path that empower you in ways that you would have never seen before if you didn't make a conscious effort to see that.
Right.
So, somebody that would smile at me, a stranger that would smile and say good morning to me was like, my God, they saw me. It's a big
Yeah.
deal. And even now, like I can feel like the emotions because that was hard.
Mhm.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I
'cause
mean?
sometimes when you are coming from certain backgrounds,
Yes.
and even though we are talking about cycle breaking, this comes from just a person with a normal background
Yeah.
that, we do need to go back and recalibrate. And one thing, and tell me if you agree, that a lot of people, we do know to go back and recalibrate, and we do know to look at like what our parents said or what other people said.
Mhm.
But a lot of people are forgetting. So for me, it's easy for me to go back in time and be like, yeah, my dad told me the only way I would succeed is to find a man with money. That was my only hope, was finding a man with money. That's easy to identify because it was spoken. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
memorable because my dad said that.
True.
But a lot of us, we forget to go back, or we don't think about going back and looking at what was the message that was not said. Or
Yeah.
even living in a homeless shelter for me, or things that were done unintentionally. Maybe my guardians or my siblings didn't say that, but it's
Mhm,
the message that my subconscious picked up. With
mhm.
that message could be that you shouldn't speak up, or that message should be like, it's not actually safe. Like, men are not safe, this is not safe, or you trying things is not safe.
Yeah.
Nobody said that, but your subconscious picked it up, right?
Right.
Is that something that you've experienced before?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was adopted as well. And I was
Mhm.
adopted into a family that was just, my parents were just abusive. I mean,
Oh,
it took decades and decades of therapy to realize that they showed up with the tools that they had. Right?
yeah,
So they didn't show up fully equipped to be fantastic, amazing parents. I think few do.
right.
Mine showed up with actually bad tools. They didn't show up with any good
Yeah,
ones. Right? So
yeah,
so it was an extremely tough childhood being raised in that, where it was just, I mean, there's just such a vast array of different types of abuse, sexual, emotional, physical, and you can't process that as a child. It is
right.
virtually it's impossible to process that. So when you internalize that message, and once again, not spoken, right? My dad didn't come out and speak words as he was doing the things he did. He ingrained them into my soul. So now you become an adult, you become a mom, and you go, whoa, now what do I do with that? You know what I mean? And that's where all of that reframing began the platform for me to seek deeper help. Because until I was able to say to myself, you are worthy of better things, you are a good person, I would never have been able to get from step 1 to 2. It just doesn't happen like that, you know? So then you start step 1, you begin to put this belief system into yourself that was never there to begin with. And now you begin to take those baby steps into like, wow, okay, maybe what happened to me, now I know, right? I'm almost 60 years old. I definitely know that I am not a survivor. I am not a victim. I had a life of experiences.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but back then you have to take all those steps to get to today.
Yeah, and it really comes down to believing it. So a lot of people, we know to say, I'm worthy, but if your subconscious doesn't believe it, so like I'm very obsessed with paradigms and like busting out of the paradigm. It's like your paradigm doesn't believe it. So that's why you need to go. And for me, what I say is like, you need to go convince your own brain, convince your own brain of why the other things were false. The other things were the lie. The fact that like you could be a good mom, that you are worthy, those things are the truth.
Right.
And the things that made you think otherwise was the lies.
Yeah.
And as you said, it really comes down to, so I'm sure that you've seen this as well, where it's like, you know, our guardians and those bringing us up, and you've already mentioned it, they have done sometimes terrible things, or even good parents. I know I'm a parent right now, and I don't always say the right thing. Like I'm not always going to say the perfect thing. Like
exactly.
I still will say stuff that I'm like, okay, maybe what message was that sending? But for those whose guardians or upbringing, they've done terrible things or like downright intentionally bad things. It comes down to like, how do you or can you forgive people who did such terrible things to you? And why is that important for you to forgive? Like, why is it important to building your more fulfilling life? So for you, like, did you come to a point of forgiving your, you know, adoptive guardians for what they did? And like, how did you do that?
Yeah, you know, it's so funny, that word forgive, right? Everybody's got a different perspective of it. And when you're working through trauma, you're working through trauma just like you work through grief. It has all the very same stages. It's loss of a childhood. It's anger that you didn't get to have the parents that you knew they could be, right? So the stages of grief and the stages of trauma recovery are almost parallel. It's really uncanny. So I don't like the term forgiveness for me. And I think that, you know, one of the biggest reasons is it kind of sends a message, what you did was okay. And I'm not going to go there because now I'm in judgment, right? And staying out of judgment is exceptionally hard. So I learned to, and trust me, I went through the anger. I definitely moved through the anger. How could you do this to me? You have to get that part out. But then I came to go, wait a minute, what happened to you? Right. You know what I mean? And it wasn't to excuse my father's behavior. It was to say, what tools were handed to you? Oh shit, you got handed the same tools? Wow, no wonder you carried the same tools to your table. Now, once again, not an excuse, because we make a conscious effort and we do know right from wrong. All right. My parents were smart people. They knew right from wrong. However, that was their tool. That was their modality. That was what they knew. And that's what they carried forward. Now, they did a lot of things right as well. I mean, all 8 of us were raised with a lot of really good things too. I know it's hard to believe, but I just learned to get myself to a place where I could say, I had experiences happen to me that hurt me deeply and changed my soul. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to sit on the bandwagon of survivor or victim? Hell no. I own my train and I drive my train. And if I sit on someone else's bandwagon, that's not going to work for Anne. So I really worked very hard to come to a place of not forgiveness, acceptance that what happened was and was not going to be changed. And then I took control of how I was going to move forward with that knowledge. And I decided to move forward really strong and really cognizant that I was going to change the karma. I was going to heal the karma in my family, and there was no longer going to be a generational cycle. It was going to stop with me. So, and that's a continued effort, right? That doesn't ever stop. Like, you don't ever stop doing the work. It always, and that's the beautiful part about it. And I love that the work is always there, and it's what drives me. It's what gets me up in the morning. I love the work. So yes, I hope that answered your question about forgiveness. I know it's different for everyone, and I would never want to rob anybody of feeling like they want that title of survivor or victim. That is completely, everyone is so different. I would never take that from someone. I'm just speaking for me personally. Those are two titles I will not wear. I don't do labels.
Different ways of seeing things. So instead of forgiveness, you would prefer to say like acceptance and understanding. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, even that's hard, right? I don't even know that understanding. I think that it's really acknowledging is more than accepting, you know, like acknowledging this is what happened and then choosing. So acknowledge and choice is more along the lines of my version of forgiveness.
Yeah, I was saying understanding because like understanding that your guardians were reacting from their own trauma, basically. Like kind of understanding that fact of just like the reason that they did that was because, like you said, they were ill-equipped.
Right. And, correct.
You know, with my family, it was like my guardians never told me good job, never, like growing up, they never said love you or anything like that. And because of that, I don't tell people love you other than my own husband. But if for me, it's like reshifting or reframing it to be like understanding why he never said that was because his parents never said that.
Yeah.
His parents saw it as weakness, and then their parents saw it as weakness. And like, but of course, you know, that put in the message that like love is weakness. But it's just like kind of understanding of like, it wasn't like they did it because they were evil for like my story. It was just like they didn't know, and now he has regrets about it.
Right.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So do you find though that, I guess one question I have for you personally, specifically, is that because you were adopted, and like, do you know why you were adopted, or like, do you have any, like, did you hear anything about that? Like, why were you adopted?
I do. And it's so funny. My story is just really, it's just really cool without giving it away. So I always wondered, you know, why would somebody give me away? Like, it just emphasized I was junk, right? Well, my God, I mean, they threw me aside. I mean, obviously I was not, you know, worthy of keeping. So those childhood thoughts, right? And then I grow up, and in my early 20s, I begin to look. I want to find out who these people are that had me. I want to find out what happened. Decades and decades and decades. And I realized, you know, the universe was like, hey, it's not time for you to find this out yet. So you need to wait, right? I didn't realize why I wasn't able to find anything. Fast forward 6-7 years ago, I found my birth parents. And they were a couple that wasn't married at the time. And they got pregnant with me, and religious reasons, who knows, they decided that they weren't going to have a baby out of wedlock. So they placed me in a Catholic orphanage and sent me on my way. And 2 years later, they got married and went back to get me. And I was already gone. I was well on my journey with my parents that raised me, right? I do refer to them as parents, right? They both passed. But so it was really funny. It was not easy for my mom to go back 2 years later, or perhaps my dad, and find out that I was gone and scooped up, you know. And then they subsequently went on to have 2 more daughters together and stayed married for, you know, many, many years. So now when I, finally find them through DNA, I find out they're only living a couple of hours away from me. And that was not where I was raised. So it's kind of weird that I moved back to a state where they lived and got a chance to meet them both and to know them.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's really kind of funny. So a lot of people will ask me, you were placed for adoption and your parents that got you were abusive. How could you take a chance to do the same thing to a baby? It's one of the questions that I get all the time, which is a really good question, and I remember I was only 22 years old when I had my son, Nathan, he's the child that I had placed. And my son, Billy, was 3 at the time. So I had a 3-year-old. And then I'm explaining to him that, your new baby brother is going to go to a new mommy and daddy. Well, that's not very easy to do, and have a 3-year-old understand that. And then also back that up and say, you're going to stay with me, and reassure him that you're going to stay with me, but he's going to go to a new mommy and dad. How vastly confusing is that for a kid, right?
Yeah.
So so many people are like, you don't know where he's going, and at the time,
you did know because you had
I didn't choose. I did not meet his family. No, I didn't. I never met his family. I didn't want to meet his family. I wanted non-identifying information. I didn't want them to look over their shoulder, and I didn't want to look over mine. Right. So I had 5 families to choose from that were completely void of any identification. And it was immediate when I read the bio on Nate's potential family. I'm like, that's them. It's just, I called it confidence. That's what my word was back then. Well, I'm very confident about that. Years later, I realized that's called faith.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't meet them, but you did choose because you went through the portfolios and you followed your intuition as far as like you chose on paper.
It was called faith, 100%. I tell you what, my parents that got me on paper were stellar. In the Air Force, made great money. These are going to be wonderful. You can't tell who's actually going to show up in their best version of themselves, But I had zero doubt. And that was really difficult for a lot of people. They had a hard time with that question, is how can you do that? How can you take a chance on your baby potentially ending up where you did?
Yeah.
It was tough for a lot of people. And I think it still might be, until they read my book.
Yeah, might be something to unpack or like understand more in your book. I was not thinking that. I was actually thinking because you were adopted, and then later on in life, when it came to the choice of maybe putting a child up for adoption, and that was like a very hard choice for you, like you said, like read the book because you will understand it, and maybe that's why I understand it. It's just from hearing that first part. But I was thinking like that might have actually put something in your brain early on of like, you knew adoption was a choice kind of more than others. So in a way, do you feel like maybe being adopted, even if your guardians were not equipped to raise a child, like maybe it did happen for you because it kind of came full circle? Because when it came to your second child, if you would have never been adopted, you might have had a different mindset of like, no, like adoption, like it really wouldn't have crossed your mind as much, but like it did because you were adopted. And that's maybe why it was like on the forefront where it's like, should I give this child up for adoption? And then going through the, thought process that you did to be like, okay, it is like in the best interest of the child to put him up for adoption. So I was kind of thinking of it in a way of like, it actually helped you make the decision for him to go under adoption. Because a lot of people, they would never even think of that. They would be like,
it actually was the opposite. I mean, It really was the opposite. Just because I had been adopted, didn't make adoption easier or more accepted as an option in my mind. In my mind, it was abortion. It was, God forbid, I try to be a mom to this baby when I'm really struggling with this 3-year-old. That was horrific. And it was, the third option was let somebody else be a good mom to him and send it out to the universe. Like, please take care of my baby. So it really, if anything, adoption it had a fear in me because I knew where I ended up. And I was like, oh my God, like I could potentially be sending this child out into the arms of hell like I was, because they were arms of hell to me. It was an extremely difficult childhood. And is that a chance I'm willing to take? Well, when I looked at the other two options, that was definitely the better one. That was definitely the better one. So I think that in the back of our minds, we all know adoption is a choice, but most of us are not willing to do something of that degree because of what it requires inside. It requires a level of self that is really difficult to explain. And I've talked to so many women that have made that choice, and also women that have wanted to make that choice and now are struggling. It's really such an interesting dynamic. I mean, adoption is trauma, whether you're on the receiving end or the other end, it is trauma. And, you know, raising a child that's been adopted, it's a level of understanding that you must have when you raise a child that has been adopted. There's trauma. And I had to accept that by placing my child for adoption, I was handing him some trauma.
Yeah.
Even though he has the most amazing parents on the planet. I love his parents. I mean, my heart is so full when I got to meet his parents, and I still, every time I get to see them, it just like, it does something to me that you can't ever imagine, because he was blessed with the best people ever. But it's still, I have handed him some trauma.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Did you hear from him?
We found each other on through a DNA match.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for my birth parents. I was never going to look for him because I made sure the adoption agency always knew where I was and my phone number in case he ever wanted to contact me. I kind of left that in his hands. I was never going to search for him because I never wanted him to feel obligated to me at all. Yeah. So when I found there was a hit, I'm thinking, oh, it must be birth family, right? There's got to be somebody in my, you know, my mom or dad or sister or brother or something. And I'm like, my son, I'm like, wow, didn't see that coming. He was looking for medical information. So, and I believe he wasn't looking for me either. So when we connected, it was like, oh my God, I think I might be your mom. And he's like, yep, you are. So, yeah, we just started a really cool dialogue for about 9 months before we met. So it was crazy.
So has he, I mean, I know like maybe he doesn't want all of his stuff out there, but like, has he said anything that has helped you heal from this journey? Like because he has such great parents, like, is he like very accepting of it? Does he understand like why? And like, do you feel like it helped in the journey of like healing and coming full circle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. You know, guys, I think are always innately different from women, you know, sharing anything deeply emotional. I was really like, I was such an open book, and I always am. So like I shared all the details with him, and, you know, and they weren't pretty details, you know, but I was like, I just want you to know as much information as I have. And I really need you to know that you were like my most beautiful, difficult decision I ever made in my entire life, still to this day. And when I met him and I got a chance to know him, and I still know him, and I see this beautiful person, this kind, honest, hardworking, beautiful person that he is, it's just like fills my heart with, you can't ever imagine the beauty in knowing that he had such a better life than I could have given him. Yeah. And when I see the love of his parents, and I see the man that he's become, you know, when I got to go to the wedding and I got to see all these people, all these friends and family that have known him and have loved him his entire life, it's like, whew, wow. You know what I mean? If I had made any other decision, it's really overwhelming. So I didn't really articulate much other than I got to observe and feel the energy and know. So yeah, we have a great relationship. He actually doesn't live far from me. He's got a beautiful family, and yeah, it's a wonderful relationship. It really is.
And what about now we're just talking about the kids, but what about the first son? Like, is the first son also like understanding? Like is accepting as well of like, how does he see everything?
Yeah, I mean, that was a journey, right? I mean, 3 years old, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, I don't think he really understood his mother was a complete train wreck. And, here we are, like, oh my God, mom's giving away kids now, and we're living in a homeless shelter, and like there was drugs and alcohol around me. And now what is happening, right? So a lot of great difficulty for him. And I'm still struggling as an adult and as a young mom to love me. And when you can't love you, you cannot convey it to anyone, especially your children. So great difficulty. I was blessed with some really good therapists, and I really had some people help me hold my hand along and help me build myself up. For 3 years after I delivered Nathan, I got pregnant again with my third son. Now I'm better equipped. I've got my own place. I've got a job. I've got a car. Life is good, but I'm sitting there like, what? Like, okay, this is going to be good, right? It was really like, that was a movement for me because I was still alone. So now explain to the kids, we're going to be able to do this, like single mom, Wonder Woman kind of thing. And I was not great at it, but I gave my very best effort, and I was developing new tools. So now fast forward when, Nathan and I connect, and I called my kids and I'm like, guess what? They were just like,
what?
Wow. Okay. Wow. So the first time they all met, it was kind of surreal. I'm sitting there going, they're all amazing men. They're all beautiful people. They're all kind, giving, caring, awesome men. And I'm sitting there like, this is me.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like that. It sounds like a big circle of like gratitude as well. Like you have a lot of gratitude for the adoptive parents that adopted, your biological son, but they also have gratitude that you let them, raise them. And like, if it really brings into light of like, if you can reshift and see things in a certain way, then things can work out. And like, do you feel like, of course, back then, like when you were first having your children, your purpose was the children. Is that fair to say? Like that was your purpose. Do you feel like your purpose has changed or evolved, or like how has it evolved through this whole journey?
I mean, I think initially in my younger years, my purpose was survival. That was extremely hard because I really didn't want to live, and I had several attempts. And so survival, and then you have kids and you're like, wow, now I really have to man up and be here. Like I can't just go and die, right? Even though I wanted to, I need to show up. And then you begin to get in position where you wonder, what is your purpose? All right, I'm providing, I'm working, I'm making a living, I'm not on welfare, I'm doing these things, but I'm not the best version of me. And why is that? So continue to do the work, continue. And when I tell you I did the work, like I relentlessly did the work, and I loved the workbooks, the books. Podcasts weren't out yet. Seminars were just starting to come out. So I would grab anything that I could to learn how to be a better version of me. And then I realized, I get up into my 50s and I'm like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And I realized all along, I am my purpose. I've always been my purpose. We all are already our purpose. We just have to pull it out. We have to see it. We have to believe it, and it really taught me that what I say to myself is true.
Yeah.
If I say to myself, I am not a good mom, I'm going to man up and be there.
Yeah.
But if I say to myself, I am a fantastic mom, I love with everything that I have, and I give as much as I can, I'm also that.
Yeah. So it really brings it back to like reshifting, as we said, to like, what are you at the core? Like, what can you do? So kind of taking accountability of, like you're saying, and this is like every single thought leader and like even the old mentors from like what, not to call you
old. No, you're right. No, it's okay.
Podcast.
Please, do it. Yeah.
Conferences, they've all said, like, what is your dominant belief is going to most likely be in your reality, because your brain wants to prove you right. Like it's confirmation bias that like if I sit here and say, no one's going to read my book, no one's going to buy my book, like
Exactly.
that is most likely going to be true because that is what you're putting out. So it's
Exactly.
really about going back and being like, what first made you think nobody would buy your stuff? That is what is the root, of the problem, if you want to call it a problem. So yeah, your power of reevaluating. And like for me, whenever I look at your work and I think of you, like that's kind of how I see this. Like I see you as like empowerment of like keeping going on. But like I do wonder, like I wonder this about people just in general. Like I always wonder, even about myself, like what is it in us that makes us have that wherewithal to have that awareness that, even you said very clearly, like you had suicidal thoughts, you had like these thoughts of like not continuing on. And even if it wasn't, even before you had a child that was your purpose, you didn't do it. So there was a drive within you.
Right.
And like for me, it's really like wondering, where does that drive come from? What is it in certain people that give them their drive? Do you feel like trauma gave you the drive to continue on?
I think to answer your question, from the very beginning, from the moment we draw our first breath, every human being wants the same thing, and that's connection and to belong. So babies are amazing, right? You ever notice a brand new baby looks at your eyes? They don't look at your shoulder. They don't look at your hands. They don't look at your mouth. They look in your eyes. That's called connection. So from the moment we are brought into this world, we are looking for connection and we're looking to belong. So my driving force from the very beginning was I just wanted to matter. Like we all walk around with that 7-year-old child still in our bodies and in our heart and in our soul. That 7-year-old kid wants to find belonging. We never shed that. That is always there. And some of us, our desire is stronger to belong. And others, the fear around that 7-year-old is so ingrained and hardened that they don't know how to find that anymore. So I think, to answer your question, I think that what really drove me was, one, I wanted to matter. And I desperately wanted to live on purpose. Like I didn't want to live on accident, which is what I felt I did. I kind of felt like, well, my mom didn't have an abortion, so she like did the next best thing and gave me away. That's what I used to think. I actually believed that. And then you do the work and you realize, wait a minute, you know what? I am where I am because I choose to be. At any given moment, I am where I am because I choose to be. And I may not choose like to have a debilitating disease and, be given a month to live, but how I react to it, I own.
Yeah. It really also, what it's making me think of is like it highlights as well. And this is something else I got from just the beginning of your book. So I can't like even express how much happened as far as like feelings and understanding with just the beginning of the book. Trauma recycle. That's why I was like, I have to go get this because it's so genuine and like it's so raw and you can tell like just the way you're explaining everything.
Yeah.
Something else that it really highlighted to me that is a good message, I think, to enforce is the people, and it goes with what you just said, the people that really made big differences in your life by just saying, like, you're not rich, by just saying you can do it, by just saying you matter. And like people underestimate, like there's so many women that I talk to, and this has happened to me as well, that just saying, this is your talent, this is what you should do, and you can do it, and like being serious, like people can tell when you're being for real, and like really believing and letting the person know you're not XYZ that your ex said or that the mean girl said. Like this is your purpose and like you can do it, can make such a big difference. And I've seen it, I've felt it, and like I've seen other women go through it, and that's what I got from your book as well. Like, can you tell us like a little bit about those shifts for you of like those people just doing things, and like we underestimate what doing small things and saying small things can really have, because we're like, oh, And that really stems from low worth as well. It's like, if you don't realize that you saying something to someone else can really make an impact, it's because you are not realizing your own power. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a weird dynamic. That's the only reason you would think that. It's like, oh, me saying that's not going to make a difference. Like, yes, it will.
Yes.
Can you kind of
Yes.
like
It does. And isn't that a beautiful gift that we all have as human beings? I mean, I remember like being in a job, and I was, this is right after I delivered Nathan, and I was working in a banquet facility, and I'm really struggling here. I'm renting a couch. My son Billy is spending more time with his dad because I'm working 3 jobs, and I'm trying really hard to get us our own apartment. And the boss at the banquet facility says to me one day, she's like, Anne, you know what? You're really good with people. I think you would make a great limo driver, and I'd love to introduce you to the company that does our work. And I'm like, oh my God, she doesn't know who I am. Like, I am not the kind of person that should be anywhere near a limo. Like, I've never even seen one up close. I'm like, if she finds out who I am, I'm probably going to lose all my jobs. You know what I mean? So like inside my brain is like, like imposter syndrome. And, you know, then that was the magic though. That was somebody believing in me in something that I never, ever would have entertained. And I went on to be a limo driver for 30 years. I raised my kids as a chauffeur. I mean, that little bit that she didn't make any money off of me. You know what I mean?
Or she might come back and be like, hey, where's my
I called her when I wrote my book. I called her up. She had since sold the banquet facility. And I said, I just need you to know that you showed up.
Yeah, you just never know when that one thing, like, and I think that's a message to like get out of, like, if you get a message out of this, it's like the one thing you say, the one thing you do, you know, even like, I'm gonna keep talking about that first part of your book, but even that part that I listened to of like the women making the outfits or like letting moms make the outfits, and I was like, wow, that's just like a simple thing that people did. Like, it's just a choice of people that really made a big impact, and you just never know, you know?
You don't ever know. You don't. Even just having grace in the grocery store. And I use this example a lot because we've all seen it. Somebody having a meltdown, whether it's in an airport, it's in a grocery store, someone really kind of losing their mind for a moment, like it's stress, right? And when we show up in a supportive way, we don't often need to say anything. Just a kind, understanding smile goes a long freaking way instead of your judgment ass. Do you know what I mean? When people put on the judgment ass face, like, oh my God, look at her. They don't realize how painful that energy is to everybody else in line, not just the person having the meltdown. We all feel that, right? But when we can stand there and just send some good energy, like, wow, I don't know what's happening in your world right now, but I'm sending you some love. And just do that. The whole line is going to feel that too. You know what I mean? So we don't realize our power as human beings to really help shift somebody else and just send them a virtual hug.
Yeah. And I used to be really bad with judging. I'm not going to lie. That was like the number one thing. Like, it was just always there for some reason. It was like the hardest thing to kick for me. And I'm just very transparent. But like, oh, and I still sometimes will get into like being like, why did they do that? You know, kind of like. But like, I've definitely worked on judging, and I had to. And something I've learned is like, you know, whenever you are judging, not only you're harming yourself because you're judging someone else, but I do find some truth coming from someone who is very judgmental. Like I said, with, you know, when you're judging someone else, it's like you're seeing something within yourself coming from that person, why you're judging them. And it's like, you need to look within. And like, that's what I always say, is to look within, to say like, what is the thing that you are judging, and where do you find it in yourself? And where can you find, you know, grace and gratitude, and like kind of reshift it. So like, that's really where judgment comes from, is your own insecurities.
Yes, it is.
Be like another thing.
100%. We all struggle with that.
But yeah, even high level women, like I was just at a conference with, you know, what you would consider very high level, successful, 6-7 figure women, they still are struggling with some of these things, even
Yeah.
making millions of dollars. You know, I've met millionaires who just saying, like, this just happened. A woman was in doubt and fear. And I basically told her, I'm like, no, but like, I literally bought one of your programs because I knew you were different,
Mm,
because you were showing that you were different. And she was sitting there doubting that, you know, she's too different for the industry. And it really just took me
yeah.
just, she's like, yeah, actually, like, that is a good point. So, like, even high level women, it's not even people struggling. It's like they still need people to look them in the eyes and be
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, like, this is what you do. And like, I went to a workshop. Her name is Marley Rose Harris. She's one of the first podcasters that really got me into this. And like, she, like, meeting her, I was like, okay, this is like a new milestone for me. Like, meeting her, even though she is just like a woman, but she was like one of the people to like look me in the eye. That she was like, because I was doubting my first speaking event and stuff like that, you know, like having a little bit of like, oh, no, no. And like, she looked me right in the eye and she was like, well, you know, your energy is powerful, right? You do know that, right? And she was like looking into my soul. And I was like, I guess, like, you know, afterwards, I was like, yeah, it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think someone doing
Right.
that, and that's powerful. So if
Right.
you're listening to this, just know, like, get into the power mode right now and like tell yourself you're powerful. I guess like I'm gonna start wrapping it up, but what I want to kind of end with, other than like everyone knowing that power and like really embracing it and kind of like taking a moment to realize like why everything worked out the way that it did for you, for your journey, because you kept working. And I really like that you're transparent and being like, you know, I had to work through this. Like,
Hmm.
it was painful. Like, it was grueling. Like, I felt these things. Like, it's very important for people to know, like, even when you're feeling these things, that is because you are human, but
Yeah.
you can get through it and you can get to a more powerful place. But I would like to end kind of like, what are you really, how do you see embodiment now? Like, what is embodiment to you?
Oh man, embodiment to me is accepting all of me. That is
Mm,
how I see embodiment. And it might be a little bit selfish, but I'm going to be honest with you. If I did not embody all of me, I would not be,
yeah.
you
It's
know?
true because, like, that's so important to be like, you know, how you said it, if I wasn't embodying all of me, because if you're not embodying all the parts of you, like I just told you, I was a judgmental person. Like, and
Yeah.
I have a episode of like, you know, all these crazy things I've done in my life. Like, I
Yeah.
slapped this guy in the bar one time and then like all these things. But like, if you're not embodying your true self, all those parts of you, then you're not going to fully heal.
Right.
But also there's going to be a misalignment, that
Yeah.
you're going to feel like a fake. You're going to feel like deep down, like this isn't for me
Yes.
type thing, because you're not accepting all those parts of you to figure that out, you know? So like, I'm right there with you with like, as far as like, you know, even in this interview, I was like, I don't always say the right stuff. I don't always say perfect things. Like, I get into fear too. And like, I teach other women to overcome fear, but of course there's times that I still fall into fear a little bit. But the difference is I know how to work my way out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so like, and then like, what characteristics or like what values are you embodying now? And like, what do you feel like keeps you in your embodiment?
You know, I constantly remind myself that that 7-year-old child is there.
Yeah,
And
me
so when
too.
I start to feel things, it often is directly right back to that child. So I
Mhm.
give myself grace, right? I don't beat myself up. And if I catch myself, because I mean, we all make mistakes. I am on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the strongest. I'm at a 9 of just laughing shit off, right? Because
Yeah,
I mean, I will do some stuff that defies logic. And I go,
yeah,
you know what? It's okay.
yeah,
It's okay. I'm not hurting anybody. It's okay. So I think that really acknowledging that I am a human being, right? And
mhm.
I'm more a spiritual being having a human experience. And
Mhm.
human experience is wrought with default. It just
Yeah,
is, right? So it's like grabbing the reins of me and going, hey, you don't have to do default. You can do intention. So I think that I know you have to have a lot of grace for you. You have to sit there and go, you know what? I'm okay. And take some time with that 7-year-old and go, you know what? I got you.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you, do you talk to your inner child? Because that's a very strong strategy, is to like go back and like really visualize your inner child. Like that's something I've learned as well.
Yes.
So if you're listening, because if you've never done this, like reach out to someone or like look it up. But like imagine that inner child in great detail. Like I always imagine mine with like tangled hair, like long tangled hair and like dusty feet. Like I've been running on the dirt or whatever, and telling your inner child what she needs to hear.
I love that. Oh my God. You just gave me like such a visual of you that I wanted to hug you. I'm glad you brought this up, because one of my favorite modalities of therapy, and one of the toughest, is called IFS, Interfamily Systems, and highly recommend people grab a book. Greg Schneider, is the founder, the thought tank behind IFS, but super powerful stuff.
Yeah, I recommend everyone do that. Like that's the first step for like mine, is like going back to your inner child and really feeling it, really seeing it.
Yeah.
That could be like a whole another episode, and I know we're
definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Goodness. And kind of like, now I just want to quickly talk about this because like it's just so big, and you just said you do it. But like when you do go back to your inner child and you visualize your inner child, which I can't even barely visualize stuff. That's one thing about me, but like I just still feel it in my body. What is your process like? If you could kind of the process quickly, like I know, like go back, find your inner child, and then like what do you do, or like are there any extra steps?
Definitely. Pen and paper. Got a pen and paper. Write it, draw it, doodle it. Pen and paper. 100%. You'll be shocked at what comes out.
And do you like tell your inner child anything? Is there like any certain thing that you definitely recommend doing in inner child working?
What are you thinking? What are you feeling right now? What does it look like? What color is it? Simple 7-year-old questions.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I kind of do that too. Other than, like I said, I really visualize exactly where the person is. Like I'm like, most of the time, like I'm 7 too. Like around 7 is like very popular, like 4 or 7, stuff like that. But like I'm in the living room, I like have the wood like in the trailer and like the everything. But another technique that I've learned through Marley Rose Harris, the same girl, is like, and I'm wondering if you do this too, but like bring your inner child. So like you breathe with your inner child. It's like a whole thing. You do the color and shape. You tell them what they need to hear. You rewrite that scenario into a better scenario of like what you would have happened. But she's also teaches like to bring your inner child to your reality now and show your inner child the life you have now that's like good. So bring up the feelings, like a recent like really good memory you had in nature or your family now. Maybe it's you like in your home with the fireplace. Like whenever I was younger, I never thought I would have a fireplace. It's like small stuff like that. And kind of show your inner child your future now. And like letting your inner child know like your future is inevitable. Like this reality exists, and kind of showing your inner child the now as a way of healing, and then kind of going back. Is that something that you've heard of before?
It's not always a conscious effort when I do that, but the things that I do in my world today and the way that my world is just pure magic. And my child never would have believed that could be her. So learning how to play is very difficult for me. That's something that I consciously have to do. So that inner child play is something I'll bring to the table and, intentionally run, intentionally skip. I travel a lot. And so letting that child touch everything. Whereas an adult, I would be more mindful of like, whoa, we don't touch that. Oh no, this inner child full on touches everything, including mud. So I have to do that intentionally.
Yeah, I think that could be like your next book. I
Yeah.
think you can write a book about like your
Yeah.
inner child like coming to play and kind of like having play in
Yeah.
your adult life,
Yeah.
like in honor of your inner child.
I
Because
love
like
that.
I never thought of it that way, and I feel like you could write like a really good book about that.
Yeah.
But whenever I do inner child work, a lot of the times my inner child will go and play. So
Mm.
I'll kind of be like, because my child in reality, like, or however you want to state it, was in survival mode all the time.
Yeah.
When I was a child, like I was always, I have anxiety still from like that
Mm.
survival mode. So whenever I do inner child work and like I go through the process that, you know, you could look up and stuff from any of our sites,
Yeah.
at the end, it's like, okay, now you, the 7-year-old me, can go and play. And like my inner child will actually go and play. Like I'm still in the trailer park or whatever.
Yeah.
Like now she can skip, now she can play, now she can blow bubbles, now she can rest and be a child. Like now that I went back and like healed that moment. And it's
Wow.
almost like I'm giving her time to be a child.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it as like being a child now, which we're like, now you say that, that is how I am. Like my husband will like joke around because he'll be like when we travel, like traveling must be a thing too that I could get into. But like when we travel, I'm like, oh my God, look at that. I'm like doing all
Yeah.
this stuff. Like he likes traveling with me because I'm like that. But sometimes it's like kind of a joke, but like sometimes I want to just go like twirl around in the sleet and
Yeah.
stuff, the snow and stuff. Like
Yeah. I
to
love
be,
that.
yeah, like me too. So that must be like a thing. So I think we should both dive deeper into that, and that should be your next book.
Yes, I like that. Thank
Because
you. Thank you.
okay, well, that's all the time. And we're going to drop all your links for everyone to find you. So everyone follow Anne Peshka. Okay, we're
Thank
going to
you.
end with our ending message.
Thank you,
And then
Laura.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Embodied Revolution show. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I hope today's conversation really inspired you to step deeper into your own highest embodiment. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to like, share, and follow. It's the best way to stay connected and be the first to know when new episodes drop. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep living from your soul's purpose.